Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Path Forward. My name is Cassandra Williamson, and I'm coming to you from wild, wonderful Pike County, Kentucky. Hardy, Kentucky, to be exact, right along the Tug River. So, welcome to the show tonight. Hey, we're going to talk about a few things that are probably just going to take some time to, or take the gloves off tonight. Okay. So, that's the most important thing that we can be doing right now. Before we can jump out and say anything about anybody else or doing anything at all, if they're wrong and we know it and they know it, but they're still doing it and all that kind of stuff, well, before you can do that kind of thing, you really have to clean your own house just a little bit, you know, and you have to be able to accept viewpoint diversity, which is a hard thing for many people to understand or grasp, even. But we don't want to become monolithic. We don't want to be stuck in a particular role or way of doing things or thinking about things and not being able to see another perspective. And whether you know it or not, in the transgender community, we are really a very small population inside the larger population. That larger US population and global population, for that matter, is heteronormative and binary. And it's been that way for a long time, centuries and centuries and millennium and millennium and millennium. It's been that way. So, who are we to come out and tell someone, hey, you've got to do it this way because, that's the only way you can be inclusive of us? Well, we can't demand our way of anyone. We don't have that right. We do have the right to expect to be treated with respect, but we have to be willing to give respect too. Not just give it, but to respect that which we are trying to become or that we claim that we are. It takes a lot to do all of this. You have to be cognizant of what's going on around you. We live in a society that, as I said a moment ago, is heteronormative. I mean by that, it's primarily straight. And that's the normal part. That's the normative part of the society. It is primarily, vastly straight as a sexual orientation. This gender is binary, whether you like that or not. That's the truth of the matter. And there's 99.5% of the population that falls within that category. We're the other 0.5%. Who are we to tell somebody else that you must do this, use my pronouns or use my name or whatever? Whatever. That's on them. They can call you whatever, as long as they just call you in time for dinner, right? I mean, come on, folks. We can't be going around here telling people, do it this way because, you got to respect us. No, no. No, if we're going around doing some things that I'm going to talk about an email I got earlier today, and from a friend out in Midwest, not going to say who, where, whatever, but they very much said a lot of the same kind of stuff I'm just saying right now and more. The crux of the matter is this: we are a small population within a larger population, and we should respect the norms of that larger population. You're not going to move the whole mountain for 0.5% of any population. It's not going to happen. And it makes it even doubly worse whenever there's those people within our community who think that it is appropriate to go out and read stories to preschool kids by drag queens in libraries or schools or wherever in the larger society. That is not appropriate, folks. It's just not appropriate. It's not going to harm those kids at all. It's not going to cause any problems with them mentally or emotionally or psychologically as they progress over time. No, it will not. But those are the societal norms in which we live, and we should be respecting that. It is wrong to do those kind of things. It's wrong to violate the norms of any particular place that you're going into. For instance, if you're going into a bathroom, I don't know how many times I've said this on this show. I've been doing this now for well over 50 episodes, more, probably close to 60 or 70 so far. And so when we go into another space, we do not have the right to tell them they have to accept us if we're doing nothing to respect that space we're going into. Period. You're wrong if you're doing it. You're wrong if you're not going out there and, being a positive influence and positive representation of who we are and who society is that we're living and working within. We've got to be the kind of people who say, I understand where I am. I understand how far along I've come. I fully accept who I am. I know certain things are true about who I am. And I know certain things are true about the society in which we live, operate, play, work, whatever. We know about that. There are religious things. There are societal norms that aren't religious, but they're just norms of which the society operates. And yet 0.5% of the population thinks they can just tell the rest of the country, the rest of the world, the rest of the people on the planet what to do and how to say it and what to believe. You're wrong. It's just wrong. And you're being an ass about it, to put it bluntly, if you're doing that kind of thing. I mean, if I'm going to stand here and tell you, if I'm going to sit here and tell you that it is wrong for a drag queen to go out and read to preschoolers, I'm going to tell you that it's also wrong then for you to go into a women's designated space if you still have your junk or a beard, or you haven't figured out a way to obscure that thing and those things and that stuff sufficiently so that you do not offend others in that space in which you're going, then you're wrong for doing it. And I'll be one of the first ones to point you out by name. And I really don't care what you feel about that. And someone once told me not too long ago that I should never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever talk about trans people. Look, we are our own worst enemy. We have been from the very start. Okay. We've tried to impose ourselves on others. And obviously it started a long time ago, but I know that much of this can be attributed over the past 2 or 3 decades, but we've been dealing with issues about rights and human rights for LGBT and transgender people in a more broad sense anyway, since 1999, probably way before then, but it wasn't a huge issue prior to then because people respected each other mostly, not all the way, but mostly they tried to respect the spaces they were in. If they were going to be an actress or whatever in a TV show, and there have been trans people in TV shows in the 80s, 70s, 80s, they were there. They just didn't make a big deal out of it like we do today. We got people out there clamoring for attention because, throw on the pride flag and throw on the trans pride flag and go, this is who I am. This is who I am. You got to respect me. No, they don't. They don't have to at all. Okay. And it's just crazy to think that they should. And it's crazy of you to think that they should as well. And then try to force it on them. Really, really. The challenge that we face in the country today, that we faced for a long, long, long time. Just let me kind of give this a preference with a little story. Many, many times over the past number of decades, many decades, the thing that has motivated me is when you can bring it and not be threatened by them, but at least can hear and respect the fact that they have other perspectives, that they have a different or a diverse view from what you believe and think. In situations that I've been involved in, I've helped create organizations that were diverse on purpose. And having an organization that was overseeing this one saying, why do you want to bring in all those people? They don't believe like you. They're actually opposed to you. And I say, well, that's why I want them in. That's why I want them there. One, we can learn from them and they can learn from us. You have to figure out a way to interact with people in a respectful way with a little bit of just, basic human decency? Is that asking too much? Is that really asking too much? I don't think so. The challenge we face is the same thing that, it's the thing that leads to myopic echo chambers and isolated little groups of people who think that theirs is the only true and right way to do things. We see it on the right, we see it on the left. Both of them are just as bad about it. They're equally bad. No one is worse than the other, okay? Because both have a tendency to attract those who think and act like them and exclude those who don't. I know for a fact that as much as Fox News says that it's fair and balanced, for as much as Fox News says you're welcome here, other views are welcome, they won't bring me on their show. They won't give me airtime. They won't do it. I think they're afraid of the gatekeepers in the community on the far right and the right who will go, why'd you bring those people on here? We don't believe in any of that kind of stuff. Let me give you a little story. When I came out and went public with who I am, it made front page news. Local restaurateur transitioning. It was public. Person wrote into the newspaper a couple weeks later as a, letter to the editor kind of thing or whatever. And person says, and I'm going to use their kind of my understanding of their accent or whatever. Okay. All right. They said, we don't believe in that kind of stuff around here. And besides, those are just something. What do you say? Well, there's more to the story than that. Okay. So I don't want to get into that part of it, but he was referring to the girls in a local newspaper. And I was just so tickled by that. But those things happen, folks, and you have to be willing to laugh it off and go on. Whenever I approached the judge, by the way, whenever I was changing all of my gender and name and everything like that, all my documents were legally completed and all, the judge said, hey, you're going to have to publish that in the newspaper for a couple of weeks so that everybody knows who you are. And I looked at him and said, Judge, do you know who I am? And he said, yes. And I said, so does everyone else in this community. So does everyone else here. And really, it's pointless because I've been in the newspaper now for what, months? So the point of all that is find ways to connect with people where you are, figure out how to become a respected and appreciated part of your communities. And regardless of the ideological views or the political views of those with whom you must operate and live and play with and engage with and whatever, get out and do something. Let them know you're a real person and that you are not just a real person, but you are a decent human being, respectful of the norms of the largest society in which you live. That's the crux of this. That's the whole problem. That's why we are where we are now, folks, because we've gone off on our little cliques over here and created the trans community as an isolated group, created the gays and the lesbians over here in a little isolated group, the intersex, and they're in another little group over there. And then you've got the non-binary and the gender non-conforming and the queer and all of the alphabet soups over there. And also the conservatives. You got, the Heritage Foundation conservatives, and you got the Trumplicans, and you got the Reaganites, and whatever you want to call them. You got the Bush Republicans. I mean, you've got the far right Christian Republican, and you got the far right Muslim Republicans, and the far right Jewish Republicans, and the same thing with the left over here on this side of things. And, That's what it is, folks. But you're part of this larger society, and we have to move forward without destroying each other and without causing too much harm. Now, people like um, Dylan Mulvaney, Dylan is only interested in herself. She is only interested in it's self infatuation. It's almost drag queen ish garishness. Okay. Everybody sees through it. It's acting. It's an art form. Yes, it is art. It's an art form. What she is doing, that's fine. Let her do it. But it brings a lot of ill repute on the rest of us simply because what Dylan is doing out there is so obviously not how women behave. It's a caricature of how women behave. Everybody knows it, including those who actively and vocally support her. That's fine. You can support her all you want, but it's causing a lot of harm because it gets used as a weapon by those in the larger population to villainize that 0.5% even further. People like Rose Montoya. Yeah, all these people. Rose took her top off at the White House. My God, it's just like, whew, you've got to be kidding me. She wasn't thinking. It wasn't a planned event. It wasn't planned activity. At least I hope not. It was a spur of the moment thing, thinking about herself, getting her name out there, making herself a public person. Okay, well, she did. And in the meantime, she disrespected Biden's White House. And I'll call it out every single time, all the time, repeatedly over and over and over again, because we've got to clean our own house up. Like, for instance, the young lady who announced that she was going to go down to the Florida state capitol and go into the women's bathroom, even though, now look, she passes well, but she made a point of announcing herself and sending a picture to all the legislators. I'm coming. This is who I am. If she had not made a single peep about all that and gone down there and just done her business or whatever, walked in, walked out, whatever she did, wanted to do, there would have been zero problem with that. None. But instead, she had to announce herself. And then that put them in a place, the police there in a place where they had to do something too, because the laws of Florida are pretty clear. Okay. As bad as they are, they're clear. So she went in there and then came out and was arrested and will have to go to court over it and likely may end up spending time in jail over it. It was a premeditated activity to violate the laws of Florida, and she did it willingly, and she did it very publicly. Okay. Now, for those of you who are just so offended by the fact that I'm pointing these people out, well, all I can tell you is I'm sorry, get over it. We've got to, because if we don't clean our own house up and get rid of the people who are going into bathrooms with beards and shaving in those bathrooms, or they got their junk going into the changing rooms for women and girls, and going out and playing on sports teams like Leah Thomas, whose sole purpose was just self. Leah did not take the time to think of what that would do and how that would impact the entire trans community. Granted, yes, we've been involved in sports for a long time, far longer than it became an issue in the public eye. We've been in the military far longer than it became an issue in the public eye. There were people who were either intersex or presenting as trans, what we call today trans, in the Civil War. There were white women who were doing it. There were Indian women who were doing it, trans women, trans men, because they had to go into the military as men, so they effectively became trans men. So, and that was in the Civil War. Then you had Pulaski, who was intersexed, obviously. Everybody knows about that one, right? Look it up. Yeah, he was founder of the cavalry and the U.S. Army, whose name is just about every state and the name of a county in every state. That Pulaski. Yeah. So the point is this, folks. We are 0.5% of the overall population. We need to respect the population. We need to respect the society that we're part of. Stop being buttholes about it all the time. Okay? Stop doing things that draw attention just to you at the exclusion of the impact it will have on the entire community. Okay? Whether we are conservative or liberal or atheist or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, we need to be able to see multiple perspectives and have them actively engaged in this community right here, right now. Why? For the exact same reason we teach people and we try to tell people that diversity is with us always. It's always here. You're not going to get rid of diversity. Inclusion is an active part. You've got to actually pursue inclusivity. Diversity you're going to get no matter what. All you have to do is look at the demographic and say, look, oh, there's some diversity there in opinions and views and race and sex and gender, you name it, nationalities, whatever. Diversity you cannot get rid of. Inclusivity is something that you have to do and work on. It's an active thing to do. And it's important that that diverse community, we teach this kind of stuff. We encourage people to go after diversity and equality and equity. We teach people those things to get there, go for those things, because it's not the same thing as equity, by the way, just so you know. All right. But we teach those things and encourage those things, but yet we don't do them ourselves. We don't take the time to apply what we're asking others to do to ourselves. So I'm here to tell you, I'm going to point it out. I may talk about it incessantly. You will probably get tired of it. You'll probably get mad at me about it. I don't care. These are things we have to do. If we're going to become a respected part of our communities, and if we're going to move forward and regain some of the things we've lost over the past number of months, then we've got to do that. Now, we'll say this. Let me talk specifically about the VA now. That's what my friend also mentioned in an email today. It does seem like and feel like the VA lied to us over the past 4 years. We worked a long time trying to figure out how we were going to get somebody on the table for gender-affirming surgery through the VA. And it feels as if it was slow-walked every step of the way. It feels as if all they were doing was dragging us along and trying to encourage us to keep engaged and involved and all this kind of stuff. And then take it all the way and roll it back. 15 years rolled back. 16 years. Yeah. That's horrible. That's what it feels like. It looks like it. I mean, even if it looks like a duck and smells like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Well, in this case, everything the VA did over the past 4 years seems to have been nothing but a lie. I know that the people who I know from personal experience and engagement with many, many, many people across the country in the VA system, I know that that wasn't a lie. But I do think it was, they misled us deliberately. I do think about wanting to do things for us, but I think what happened was they didn't expect that Trump would win. They figured they had another term to go. Normally, you have another term to go. It would have been either Harris or Biden, but whichever one, they figured, hey, we're going to have another term. We can actually work this through, and maybe we can get it then. Well, what they didn't realize was that they could have done it from the very beginning. They could have done it quickly from the very beginning. They could have gotten this done fast. And how do we know that? Well, For the past 100 days, we've seen somebody in the White House and the Trump administration, all across the executive branch, who's done nothing but move through as fast as they can and break things. Move fast and break things. And that's what they've done. They pushed through stuff. It's been challenged in court, left and right. But yeah, they pushed it a bunch of stuff through there. They moved so fast that the rest of us are trying to catch up. The VA could have done that moving fast under the Biden administration. They could have done this back then, but they chose not to. I don't know if that was just a willingness or a desire to follow the system and not rock the boat too much because they didn't want too much attention focused on it. Well, if you came in like Trump has done in the past 100 days, it wouldn't matter. That would have been one part of this whole spectrum of things that had got accomplished. Okay. No. So it looks and feels and looks like we were lied to over the past 4 years because we know how quickly it can be done and changed and fixed, but it wasn't. And now we're rolling back another 16 years. And I say 16 because it was in 2011 when the VA wrote its first policy on LGBT veterans. So anyway, the whole path forward for all this kind of thing, I was going to talk about some other things about preparing yourselves and all that kind of stuff. Be prepared. We'll have to do being prepared on another session because I've talked 30 minutes longer than I expected already. Imagine that. It just rattles on. I've talked about this stuff. Well, no, look, I'm going to do it again. Have a good evening. Come back tomorrow evening. If you're registered for the Zoom meetings that are held Wednesdays at 7:30, find one of the emails I've sent out to you. If you're not registered, register because you have to register to attend these things. These are Zoom meetings where we can actually talk face-to-face virtually and have conversations about things and hear different people and how they're doing and what's going on and what we can do to move forward. But I'll tell you something. I have a very firm grasp on these things. And these are my shows and I will run them the way I see fit. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Disagree. But don't run and cry. Don't run home and cry because I said something that offended you. Stick around. We'll try it again and we'll do it again the next day.